I am a female, 22, and the only daughter of my father and granddaughter of my grandpa. I have 2 biological brothers and 1 stepbrother, whose mom none of us know about. My family had been in the business of diamonds for generations. I never had the lack of money growing up. I always had what I wanted. My grandpa adored me because I was the first girl born in generations in our family. He gave me whatever I wanted. He told me I would never have to work for a thing in my life as long as he is alive. He loved me so much he did not even want me to move out, but I wanted to live alone and experience that part of my life. So at 18, I went to London to study, but it was just not my thing. College and studying was not for me, so I dropped out within a year. I tried my hand at different things like art or music, but nothing interested me enough. My grandpa had no problem with me dropping out of college or with me hopping onto different hobbies. Meanwhile, my dad could not stop reminding me how shameful it was for him that I dropped out of college. I did not have any lack of money. Even if my dad never had much attention for me, my granddad always sent me a fat allowance. I just wanted to find something worth doing with my life. Money did not matter for me for the time being, so in the midst of trying different things, I also stumbled upon a casting director in Paris. He told me that I would make an amazing model, and I was looking to kill the time, so I agreed. I did some shoots. They turned out good, and I found out that it was also something I enjoyed so much. I started trying different types of modeling. Some of them were nude photo shoots too. I was a bit nervous and even scared, but when I saw the pictures, they were beautiful. I decided that was what I was going to do. Within a month, I was signed with a modeling agency. I was making my own money and a name for myself. I was quite happy when my grandpa called. He called me, and I was so happy to tell him that I got a career that I made for myself on my own, but he had called with different intentions than to be happy for me. He had never spoke to me the way he spoke to me on the call that day. He had never raised his voice at me, always treated me like a goddamn princess, and he yelled at him. He called me a disgrace on the family to parade naked on the magazines. He asked if the money he sent was not enough, that I had to strip in front of a camera. That if I wanted money that much, I could just say the word to him, but I chose to humiliate the family instead. I could not stop tears from falling down my cheeks at his words. They hurt me deeply. So when I could hear no more of it, I hung up my phone and threw it off my balcony, not caring what happened. I decided that if I was such a disgrace to my family and its name already, I might as well enjoy it. I kept working as a model. I got a new phone and saved 0 contacts from my family. But my grandpa found me. I was coming back to my apartment in Paris and found him right at the front of my door. He looked mad. Very mad. I was scared, but I told myself that I was an adult, independent woman now, who is 20. And does not need to be scared of any man who wants to take control of my life. He asked me if I was not going to invite him inside my lavish apartment. He said it as a taunt because he knew I had refused to accept the allowances he sent me since the call and was living entirely on my own with the money I earned by stripping in front of cameras. I opened my front door, holding it open to let him in, and he did step in, looking around, judging every corner of my beautiful apartment with his judgmental eye. He sat on the edge of my sofa and told me if I had enough fun doing my little hustle. When I did not respond, he spoke what he really came for. He told me to stop modeling, that it was enough embarrassment and now I had my fill of the independent life. It was time I started to think about what kind of family I came from and how important it was that I do not present myself like that. I know the word he wanted to use. He could not even look me in the eye. He was ashamed of me. He was so misogynistic and narrow-minded. I always thought he loved me the most in the world. But he just cared for his family name and business. I did not want to cry in front of him, so I took deep breaths and told him I was not quitting my job. I am the best in what I do and I am starting to make a name for myself, and in my head, my profession is not something I should be ashamed about. He got up furious at that, gripping his cane like he was going to hit me, which he did not, thank God. He did not soften, even when he saw me crying. He just said that I needed to stop that. I stood my ground, saying that I will not. He said I had forced his hand into what he was going to do now. He said that if I do not stop doing naked shoots for magazines and come back home, he will give his $3 million inheritance to my stepbrother, the stepbrother I hated all my life and he himself was not a big fan of. My stepbrother, Mike, was my father's illegitimate child. No one knows about his mother except my father and grandpa. He just lived with us since he was 8. I was 6 then. He always bullied me and then tried to molest me when I was in high school. I told my grandpa about it and he kicked him out of the house immediately. He still lived off the money of my family, but my grandpa never included him in our family. Not because he was illegitimate, because he was a creep and just could not stay out of trouble to save his life. It will give everything to him just because I refused to let his sick mindset control my life? That blew my head. I looked at him with tear-filled eyes and said he would never. He looked me straight in the eye with so much confidence and said, "Stop stripping or watch me give everything to Mike." I could not take his audacity anymore. I told him to get the one out of my house and that he did not need to check on me ever again. That I was doing fine on my own and I will keep doing that. He can give his money to whoever prick he wanted or burn it all for all I cared. I cried the whole night that night and had to take off the next morning because I could not shoot with a swollen face. Modeling is good and pays well, but I realized soon enough that I had been way too sheltered all my life to suddenly run into the world. I doubt my decision every once in a while and miss my family too. Am I the a-hole for throwing everything my family offered me? It had been 2 years of me being on my own and my family never once tried to check on me. I know I told them that they do not need to anymore, but it still would have felt good if they had tried. My mother, who had divorced my dad upon finding out about Mike, is all who had been with me in the name of family on holidays and birthdays. She thought I was stupid to throw away all of that for being able to work, but if this life makes me way happier than that one, then I made the right decision, and I should be proud of it. She always made sure to tell me that she loved me and accepted me the way I am, whatever I do. Just like my grandpa used to say, I missed him a lot. I did not realize how much because of all the rage until I received that he passed away. I didn't even know he was sick or close to death. They did not even ask me to come see him. I was in the middle of mourning when I received a call I never once in my life received, my dad's. I picked up. I thought he finally missed me or wanted to invite me for the funeral when he said that he was sending his jet to pick me up. Hours later, when I reached New York, then I got to know why I received that once-in-a-lifetime call from my father. We did not go to the funeral. No church, nothing. He took me to his office where my brothers, their mother, yes, my father had a streak of having children with different women. They were all there along with another set of suited men that sounded like they were lawyers. I thought Grandpa left me something. I was so happy when the thought of him not hating me in his death crossed my mind. What he left me did not matter. The money or house, nothing. He still loved me. That is what I thought, but when I heard what he really left me, my jaw dropped to the floor. He left his entire inheritance to me, which was more than $3 million. He left everything that was in his name to me, and only I had the right to decide if the rest of my family members even had access to the properties. I could sell the company if I wanted in an instant. That is why my father looked like he had a stroke. He desperately needed me to sign the papers giving them permission to make further deals or just work. He begged me to forgive him for all the time he treated me like shit. Money really can kill pride. I do not think I'm going to forgive any one of these people easily, and I'm not going to forgive Mike at all. Am I the a-hole for that? You are one kick-ass woman, girl. I love that you stood up for yourself and did not leave your passion. My family also looks down on women in that industry, and all I want to do is become an actor. Yes, your dad worked his whole life for that company, and you got it just because you were Grandpa's favorite. That is so unfair. You holding a grudge on him for millions of dollars was petty. I do not stand for that. A-hole move, through and through. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to suspend school in order to take care of my sick grandmother? Recently, my 92 female grandmother fell extremely sick, and since then, she is extremely weak and became partially disabled with limited mobility. She is unable to eat on her own, dress herself, and needs help every time she relieves herself. As such, my 50 female mother quit her job just to take care of my grandmother full time. She does not bear to send my grandmother to live at a caregiving facility for the elderly, as she thinks that the care provided at these facilities will never be as good as home care. But she has since realized that taking care of a sick and disabled elderly person is too much work, and she is unable to cope with the workload herself. She also cannot afford to hire a live-in caregiver to help her take care of my grandmother as she quit her job. Therefore, my mother wants me, 20 female, to suspend school in order to help her take care of my grandmother. I refuse her request as I do not want to suspend school indefinitely and implicate my future, just to take care of my sick and dying grandmother. Since then, my mother has been guilt-tripping me and calling me a selfish and cold-hearted person who does not care about her family members. This is absolutely not true. I do care about my grandmother, and I am willing to take care of my grandmother during my semester breaks and holidays. But I'm just not willing to put my life on hold to be a full-time caregiver. As I'm also Asian, my mother has told me that taking care of the elderly is my duty, due to the concept of filial piety. And now all the guilt tripping from my mother is making me feel like I'm a horrible person, and it's affecting my daily life. I can't focus during classes, and I have been feeling very depressed lately. So am I the a-hole for telling my mother I do not want to put my life on hold in order to take care of my sick grandmother? My mother wants me to suspend school indefinitely to take care of my sick and dying grandmother, and I refused her. Not the a-hole. You have to take care of yourself first. Your future is important. Your mother can't make you take the same decision as her. Not the a-hole. Your mother made an unilateral decision to take care of your grandmother at home rather than to place her in a care community. This was your mother's choice. What she thought would be better for your grandmother, not what you decided, or even what's actually better for your grandmother. There's no reason you should have to quit school to become a de facto live-in care. If your mother can't afford live-in care because she quit her job, she could go back to work and hire live-in help. That way your grandmother is still at home, but getting the professional care she needs. Or your mom could hire a non-live-in care person for a few hours a day, or even just for a few hours a week to help out. Not the a-hole. Your mother made an emotional, yet ultimately foolish decision in quitting her job to be a full-time carer. You do not have to follow her. Focus on your studies. If her guilt tripping is affecting you, then set clear boundaries, and when she persists, limit or cut contact for a time. Nobody is entitled to emotionally abuse you. I, female 18, lived part-time at my dad's house and part-time at my mom's house. They got divorced when I was 12, and until I can move out, I lived part-time at each house. I graduated in June. My dad married his now wife, female 48, when I was 14, a year after the divorce was finalized. She has never really liked me. She has always made fun of my weight, negatively commented on my makeup, and always seemed to be against everything I do. When she was my age now, she was pregnant, homeless, and jobless. In her eyes, I should have been out of the house a month ago. I work at a grocery store near where we live, and don't make a lot. The other night, she began to tell me that paying $350 a month would be a good amount to pay to live at my home. She began to tell me that if it was up to her, I would not be welcomed at their house unless I could pay the $350, but my dad prevents that from happening. Now to the point. She has MS and can't stand very long, and is currently on disability for headaches, not even the illness she claims to have. She doesn't clean the parts of the house I don't. She stays at home all day and watches TV, saying this is because she cannot stand long and cannot work, yet she went to a concert where she stood for 6 hours straight, and it was standing room only. When she recently asked me for money, I told her that I pay her every month. She asked me what I meant, and I told her that I work every day, and her disability money that she gets every month for her fake disability takes from my Social Security and other people that are actually disabled and cannot receive it, like a family member I lost last year who couldn't work due to her heart condition. She told my dad. He had a conversation with me about how it was inappropriate for me to speak to her that way. Even though he partially agreed with me, he yelled at me for 20 minutes while she watched and smirked. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Paying rent is up to your dad, not her. As an adult, can you just live at your mom's? Paying rent is not unreasonable. As soon as I was not a full-time student, I had to pay rent. I made my kids pay rent. About your stepmom's disability, my wife has been on disability for years and wishes she could work. On good days, she can be up and around most of the day. She is in bed most of the day. She could not work because she never knew which days were good. It is not easy to tell about disabilities. ESH. Your stepmom is being a jerk and needs to lay off. However, assuming that you're from the US, you really don't seem to understand how hard it is to be declared disabled and be awarded disability payments. They deny nearly everyone the first time as a matter of course, and it can take years for testing, hearings, and more to be approved. There's a reason that lawyers have entire practices devoted just to getting people approved for disability. There are far more people who should be getting it and aren't than the other way around. It's unlikely she's just plain faking it. People with disabilities can be a-holes too. Regardless, getting the hell out so you don't have to deal with her assholery should be your #1 goal. not the a-hole, and I would take your dad out for a cup of coffee and let him know you are done putting up with his wife's bull. Let him know that since you are an adult, you are not legally obligated to continue a relationship with him, since his wife continues to bully you and harass you. Ask him, is it worth losing a relationship with his child, or would he rather tell his wife to stop? You do not have to take his wife's crap, remember that. You can tell him anytime that you will not allow her to treat you that way. Also, you can report her to the government if she's faking the reason she gets the disability money.